Well, good morning, everyone. I'm here today. I wanted to show you a little bit of my madness methods. And so I just split this bin yesterday. I got the hook on it. That tells me, red flag, these babies are probably going to start getting warm. I use this, it's like a vinyl almost type stuff. It's really old. I don't know. And then I do have the bubble wrap under it. What I'm finding about the bubble wrap is that the bubble wrap just, I think they chew it. And they put holes in it. And so the bubble wrap, after a month, pretty much no air in there anymore. So I don't know. Maybe the bubble wrap's a bust. I'm still going to use it. What I have started doing, because I'm noticing, yes, when you're not pre-composting your bedding, then you do end up starting to get some bacterial multiplication, which ends up removing the oxygen from your tank and ends up causing the worms to get a little too warm. So that's one thing I want to check here. Here comes one of these blues, which I've already done a video on why I chose to have blues in my tanks, my bins, whatever you want to call them. Now, this one does not feel too moist, but it is warm. I can feel very definitely as soon as I put my hand in here. We've got some microbial multiplication going on. It's 94, so that's a little warm. I wanted to also show you, it's not going to kill anybody. It smells wonderful. It smells like the forest. There's a lot of leaves in there. So this here on top, you're wondering like what in the world has got in there? That's wool. And so I'm noticing really good breakdown of the wool when I put it in here. I don't think it's the worms doing it. I think it's probably bacterial and fungi. But after it's been, especially once this gets turned and it's down in, it does tend to break down fast. I was really impressed. So I don't know what's causing that, but it is. Right now I have it on top and you can just see the water droplets. Okay, wool soaks up 60% its weight before it starts to feel wet. So I want to gain with that plastic on the top of there. And what's happening right now in this bin as these microbes are breaking down all that organic matter, it's called catabolism. So when catabolism takes place, moisture is released. So I know this bin should be getting moist, more and more moist down the line. Now, since I told you it feels pretty dry down in here, okay, so I'm not really worried about this bin getting too wet. In fact, that's why I added in dry leaves. I'll add in a lot of dry stuff because I know with catabolism going on, that's causing more moisture. Now, what I'm concerned about is if these bacteria are multiplying so fast, they're using up all the oxygen in the bin. That's what I'm paying attention to. I want to keep these bins oxygenated. That's also why I use the chunky bedding amendments, because I want plenty of atmospheric pressure hitting when it hits this. I want plenty of penetration in those areas for oxygen to get down in there so that we're feeding the aerobic bacteria and not so much the anaerobic bacteria. But there is kind of a threshold where even your aerobic bacteria start multiplying so fast that they suck all the oxygen out of the air and make it anaerobic. So it's really a dance if you're doing it to preserve your nitrogen in these bins. Don't let the anaerobic bacteria get a hold of it, because they're going to turn it into a form that is nitrate or lost into the atmosphere. And that's when you start getting smells. So that's why you want to smell your bin. If it smells like wonderful, forest floor, soil, you're composting aerobically. And you're storing that nitrogen then in the NH4 form. That the plants are going to utilize. That's not going to cause nitrogen drag. Your nitrate levels, though, if you're composting any of your worm bins, you're getting them too wet and you're letting that anaerobic bacteria break that down, then you're getting into some heavy duty loads of nitrates, which then if you're going to put that on your eco-ag field, you're going to be selecting for weeds, and you're going to be increasing your nitrate levels in your stocks, which is going to cause nitrogen drag when we get these really dry summers. So I know it sounds like a lot, but once you reach a level where you've got all that under your belt and now you can start focusing on your fertilizers, your amendments, it gets to be a pretty cool place to be. So that's what this bin's all about. I mean, every day when I check a bin, I'm looking for specific things. Oxygen, moisture, and I have the microscopes behind me here. So I am actually taking a sample out of here. I'm seeing what kind of microbes I'm harboring. So this white, you know, that's telling you we've got some fungal growth there. It doesn't look like the fuzzy, you know, mildewy or greeny color that's, you know, that mildew. You don't want that. This is just a good leaf mold that's starting to break that down. That's why, you know, this is all in the floor. So I've got these worms. I mean, you see them, you can't see them, but they're right out here on this outer edge. So let's take our temperature outside outer edge, because I'm actually composting, and they are in my pre-compost here. This is 81. So outer edge, they're loving it. Now, if they need more oxygen, these don't seem to need more oxygen. It seems to be a chunky enough blend that atmospheric pressure is going to push down enough oxygen down in here. Also, if I get my moisture right, so that I'm not harboring the anaerobes, but only the aerobic bacteria, they're going to be able to utilize some of that nitrogen that's, you know, what, 70% in our atmosphere, and convert that down to NH4 for me. So not only are they going to be getting the NH4 from the bedding, or converting the NH4 from nitrogen in the bedding, but they can utilize that nitrogen in the atmosphere as well. So we're going to supercharge our bedding. Hopefully. If I can keep up with this. So my plan is just to raise these worms all winter inside so that I can continue to convert. This is some grass clippings that I don't want to use anymore. Just taking grass clippings and put it right in here. Because they seem to just mat. They mat. So I'm going to have to mix them with something that keeps them from matting. That's one rule I'm going to have from now on if I get grass clippings. So this might have been some old wool. It is. I want to show you what they've done. Okay. I wish I could get closer to this camera. But I don't know if you see how they have loaded that up with cocoons. That little chunk of wool's been down in there for a while. And I want to show you how easily the wool is breaking apart. I can feel it breaking in my fingers, so I am so excited about that. So like I said, now, once this wool absorbs up all that moisture, it's going to hold it and retain it for a while. So these cocoons, that's why they want to put it there in that wool. These cocoons will stay in a nice, humid environment, so they're not going to, what's called desiccate, you know, and get too dry. Yeah. And so wool, when it absorbs moisture, believe it or not, there's what's called an exothermic reaction that takes place. Exothermic means it releases heat. That's why these wool, this is actually not wool, it's alpaca. The hat that I've made is alpaca. But what it does is, as your head releases moisture, the living, I call it living even though it's not alive, but it's doing a chemical reaction up here on my head. So that will absorb the moisture and release heat in the process. It's an exothermic reaction taking place between the water, H2O, in your from your body. So this bin, even though it's up at the 84, now if it was getting up at the hundreds, I'm going to get concerned. But right now, staying low enough, and I think that's because it's cool enough in this room, so the ambient temperature is lower. So that's what's keeping my outer edges cool. And then if I got real concerned, I would remove the plastic cover because that's also insulation. So is the wool, and the wool is giving off heat as it's absorbing this moisture right now. But I like to get that wool because I turn my bins probably way more than I should, but I'm seeing lots of cocoons, so I'm not too worried about it. I want to get that wool moist and collect some of that extra moisture coming off, get it in the wool before I turn it in. Don't know why, just seem to really like it. Like, so you can see now how much white is being produced kind of right here. This is a really good leaf mold, just really nice leaf mold starting there. That's going to be something the worms are going to love to eat. Perfect. I love the way this bin is looking. I love the moisture level it has. When it's cold, because I'm raising the worms in this compost and it's actually heating through the catabolism process, the breakdown with the worms, I don't have to run my heat mats because I have the heat mats. That's going to be for, I guess, January, February. Although if I continue with this method of just a really low grade bacterial heat being produced, it's possible I can raise them all winter without using any electricity, except for the lights, which keep them in. That's going to be my next move. If I can make a really good, healthy ecosystem environment in these bins where it's nice and chunky, oxygen can get to them, bacterial could be in there, they can be producing the heat. This is what we are calling symbiotic relationships. Everybody's working together to create an environment that's perfect for all, low disease. So I could possibly keep these babies cranking out cocoons all winter long with no lights because they love their home more than they do coming out into the air or jumping ship, and no heat because we can pre-compost right in here because I don't have it so thick that heat can really build, and we got oxygen so that it can transfer and release the heat. I'm really still researching all these factors, and so far is working spectacularly. And I keep getting it more and more refined and better, and the worms seem to love it. And the different, I had the video, check through the videos on why I'm putting in diverse species. I'm not isolating anymore. Specialization, out the door. We need diversity so we can improve soil health, which is more important. And that in turn will improve the human health as well. Just all my opinions and theories, but if they sound good to you, go ahead, click the button. I'll give you a lot more. I'm going deep within the bowels of the earth here. This is the mothership here in the worm room. Stay tuned. Thanks and have a wonderful day, everybody.